Hello, we're in chapter 1 and this is device setup and installs. In this chapter, we're going to be looking at all different types of components on the motherboard and inside the computer case. We're going to also look at connection types, HDMI, USB. We're going to talk about a whole plethora of connection types, and then we're going to move right into something pretty easy. We're going to talk about input and output devices that are used on computers. So our first topic to get out of the way, we actually are going to talk about appropriate safety precautions and procedures. So we're looking at government regulations. On the test, they're going to ask you a few government regulations, making sure you understand things like OSHA, okay, and what is the purpose of these things. So here we have types of regulations. We're looking at health and safety laws, building codes, and environmental regulations. We just said OSHA is a prime example of these. But the purpose of this is for employers and employees both to know their responsibilities. Employers should provide a safe workplace, and employees' actions should promote safety for themselves and others. So it's a combined effort when we talk about these things. Equipment grounding is one of the major precautions of safety. We do not want you to get zapped. So we want to make sure grounding. Of course, we've all heard of a ground. That's a safe path for electronic current to flow away in the event that a device or cable is faulty. So you need a ground on pretty much all your major electrical output devices. High voltage, be careful. Most PC currents are low in voltage, low in current, so you're really not going to hurt yourself. But there are some portions that we call black boxes. And that's an IT term. You may see it or not see it on the test. There are notable exceptions, like power supplies. You can replace a power supply by pulling it out of the box and getting rid of it. That's referred to as an FRU. But we never open up a power supply. We do not open them up. That is against all regulations. CRT monitors, you probably don't even know what they are, depending on your age. But CRT are the long tube monitors, the big fat hot ones that we had sitting on the top of our desk. LCD displays, there's an inverter inside of them, and that can cause physical damage to you. So we normally, when there's a laptop or an LCD display that goes bad, we get rid of the whole display and replace it, or we get rid of the whole PC and replace it. Laser printers are another one. We're going to learn about laser printers, but we're never going to go inside too much and actually work inside the laser printer. So do not open units that are marked with high voltage warnings. And you can see this sticker over here, unless you're specifically trained to do so. This is where we're going to call in a professional. And we're going to say, hey, you need to go into the laser printer so I don't shock myself. Electrical safety and fire safety. When we go to reach for a fire extinguisher, if we're in a data center and we have $1 million worth of servers, we don't want to use a regular fire extinguisher. So we're looking for the fire extinguisher that is marked with a K. This is going to allow you to put out a fire safely, but not damage the equipment altogether. And then be sure you know how to cut the power. Just like at a gas pump, there's a big fire going on. Let's hit the stop gas, cut the power to the pump, and know where the master switch for your building are where you work at. So if there's anything in there that we need to shut off the electricity right away or do something quickly to terminate an electrical fire, let's make sure we know where it is and what our responsibility is. Next, we're looking at toxic waste. Ooh, toxic waste. That does not sound good. So we want to make sure we can deal with contaminants. The major ones would be like anything that's corrosive. You have all these different signs that signal what you're looking for here. We have environmental hazard, explosives. You don't want to be around explosives. We have hazardous health material. So they're not going to use each one of these icons and ask you what they represent, but it is good to get yourself familiarized with this before you go on site and do your job. Now, one thing you are going to be tested on heavily, you're going to see throughout this entire 101, series for the hardware is ESD. What is ESD? What is ESD? I'm asking you. Okay, that's electrostatic discharge. So this is where if you shuffled your feet when you were a kid and you zapped your buddy, that was the buildup of electrical current in your body. So we do not want to have any of that buildup in our body when we're working with any type of PC components, because we can blow capacitors, transistors, and things of that nature. So look at how dangerous this is. People feel ESD at 2,500 volts. That's when we're like, oh, we got shocked. But equipment can be damaged by as little as 100 volts. So you may not know you have ESD in your body and you're working on a PC equipment, boom, it blows up. So what do we have to fight against ESD? Well, we have a whole bunch of tools that we're going to discuss in just a second. And some of the things that generate ESD: low humidity, cooler temperatures, synthetic clothing. All of these together, or all of these apart, can make a lot of electrostatic discharge build up into your system. To handle it, we're going to use things like a leg strap or wrist strap. ESD wrist straps are very common. You can see one in the corner of this illustration. And this, it has a small alligator clip that you clip onto the computer case. You wear it around your wrist. And now you can freely move about the computer without worrying about ESD. It grounds you out, like we just talked about in the early chapters. So the act of touching a ground object before touching electrical equipment. We ground ourselves and then we touch the electrical equipment. There's also comes in a whole bunch of different formats, as we can see here. We have protective work surface, which is basically like your ESD mats. So once you're using your equipment, you should put them safely on an ESD mat so no harm comes from them. We have the wrist strap that we just talked about. We also can see most technician bench have grounding points. There's ESD floor mats. But if you had a floor mat and you're standing on it, would you need to also use other precautions? Absolutely. You don't want to give this away to just one solution. So you may want to double up. And this depends on really where you're doing your work. Here in Florida, we have a lot of humidity. So ESD is not a major concern here. If you're in Arizona where the weather is cool and dry, you're going to get ESD all the time. So be careful. It has a lot more to do of where you're located in the States or abroad, if ESD is going to be a concern for you. Now, to protect components and equipment, we're going to drain our body and clothing from that static electricity. If possible, we're going to work in an uncarpeted area because, again, carpeting helps produce the ESD in your body. We're going to self-ground. We can do this by holding the inside of the desktop or computer case you're using. Not the plastic on the outside, but literally putting all of your 8 fingers on the case itself. And this allows to drain out the ESD before you touch it. So if you do not have an ESD wristband or leg strap or mat, you are going to always remember to hold the case, discharge your ESD, and then you can go ahead and replace that component. Let's go over some review questions. And this will be the pace of the class. We'll talk about something, we'll talk and have review questions on that subject. So describe the equipment you should use to prevent static electricity on your body from damaging the equipment on which you are working. This is out here for you. So when we do these, I like you to stop, pause, and think. What is the answer? That is correct, sir. And I heard you out there. An anti-ESD wrist strap or grounding cord and conductive mat. So you have the wrist strap, the mat, the cords that you can hook directly to your desk. They're all satisfy the ESD being drained from your body. True or false? If you are using an anti-static floor mat, do you need any other type of anti-static equipment, such as wrist strap and so on? It says false. A mat should be used with a wrist strap. You may also need ESD safe packaging for storing components. If you ever bought a component, such as a new sound card or graphics card or any type of expansion card, you will notice that it comes in a weird looking mat shaped wrapper. It's got all these lines through it. That is an ESD bag, and that makes sure that it protects it while they're shipping. In which atmospheric condition is the risk of ESD the highest? We just talked about that. During cool, dry conditions, not heavy, humid conditions like we have here. So in cool, dry conditions, you want to be extra sure about preventing ESD. Which computer component presents the most danger from electrical shock? Which component presents the most danger? The power supply. I mean, come on, the electrical shock is probably going to come from the power supply. What did we say about the power supply? It's a black box. We do not open it up. If the power supply tests bad, as we'll be doing in a later chapter, you simply take that power supply, throw it in the trash can or dispose of it correctly, and you put a new power supply in. That's how we do things in IT here. There's no such thing as soldering guns. I used to see old commercials, oh, become an IT person, and they show you a soldering gun. This ain't craft class. We do not use soldering guns. Nobody solders anything. We FRU, field replacement unit. Chuck it, put a new one in. All right. Now, that was for you because you got all them questions correct. And we're going to move on to topic B, PC components.